Hello, this is Business Now, reaching you live from iBrandTV news studios in Lagos, Nigeria. Coming up, NNPC releases additional 381.8 million liters of fuel. Banks borrowing from the Central Bank of Nigeria fell by 47% to 666 billion naira for the second consecutive month. Nigeria's domestic gas demand drops by 318 million metric standard cubic feet of gas per day. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michael Nath. Now, beyond communicating via the internet, we all can now live on the internet in the new virtual reality. This was the assertion of the team lead, Link Finance Concra, in reaction to reports that MTN now owns 144 plots of virtual land with an overall area of 12 by 12 square meters. Concra further said that when the new reality is fully achieved, less emphasis will be placed on the physical reality. He spoke earlier in the day on iBrandTV's Business Breakfast show.
The metaverse, it's like I said, now we live in a world where we are being connected by the internet, So now we're moving to another reality where we both can live on the internet, and then our money, there has to be a means of exchange over there. So, and that goes to show where that's a situation where someone could be broke here, but is rich in the metaverse. And people can choose to spend their time in the metaverse because that's where they have their wealth. They have land, they have properties there. And beyond just, most times you can choose not to use the virtual reality. You can come up with an avatar that represents you in that reality. Yes, so that gives rise to the NFTs. I don't know if you've heard of NFTs. So you can choose an avatar that represents you in the metaverse, and that is your virtual life, and as the world progresses to that point, less value and less impact or attention will be paid on this reality, and more attention will be given to that reality. That is why you see companies like MTN already trying to get in on time they've already purchased, this large expanse of land on the metaverse. You have Facebook repositioning themselves to be focused as a company that is driving, the metaverse, adoption. So with time, less emphasis will most likely be placed on this reality.
The scarcity of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, has refused to abate despite claims by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited that it has been releasing hundreds of millions of litres of petrol to address the situation. And its latest weekly national PMS evacuation report for February, NNPC said it evacuated an additional 381.88 million litres of petrol during the period, representing an average daily evacuation of 63.65 million litres, while the year-to-date daily average was put at 60.86 million litres. But despite its claims, the queues for petrol in filling stations across the country dispensed the commodity on Sunday remained massive in Abuja, neighbouring Nasarawa and Niger, as well as in many other states. It said 80% of all the evacuation took place at the top 20 high-loading depots, while 20% of the remaining evacuation took place at the other depots. The scarcity of petrol in Nigeria has persisted for about a month. The development has led to the resurgence of black marketers who sell petrol at about 300 to 500 naira per litre, depending on the area of purchase. Meanwhile, Sarah, in a letter signed by the Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, urged Buhari to direct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami and the appropriate anti-corruption agencies to probe the spend on the country's 4 refineries, alleging corruption and mismanagement of public fund budgeted for the rehabilitation operation and maintenance of the refineries since 1999. Serap said, quotes, anyone suspected to be responsible should face prosecution as appropriate if there is sufficient admissible evidence, and any mismanaged public funds should be fully recovered. End of quote. It adds that the importation and distribution of dirty fuel and the current fuel scarcity across the country demonstrates the need for effective accountability measures to weed out, expose and punish allegations of corruption in the sector and to ensure justice and effective remedies for victims. Now, in the meantime, our document released by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority indicated that Nigeria's new domestic gas demand requirement has hit 4.482 billion standard cubic feet of gas per day. But latest industry statistics, as revealed by the Group Managing Director of Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, Mele Kyari, at the 15th Oil Trade and Logistics Africa Downstream Week in Lagos, had put the country's domestic gas demand at 4.8 billion standard cubic feet of gas in 2020. The drop in gas demand may not be unconnected with the movement of some companies out of Nigeria over poor infrastructure, especially electricity. A World Bank Enterprise Survey reported 322 private firms closed down in Nigeria between 2009 and 2014 due to stifling business regulations, corruption, and political environment. Now, the controversial national carrier, Nigeria Air, may now see the light of the day in the second quarter of this year, as request for proposal will go public this week. According to a report, another shift in takeoff date, earlier proposed for the first quarter, was due to delays in mandatory approvals that have now been granted for the commencement of the bidding phase. Though the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Siraka, has hinted on speedy wrap-up ahead of takeoff next month, findings from the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, show that the request for the air operator's certificate and air transport license have not been tabled as at weekend. Sirika, the weekend, confirmed the commencement for the issuance of requests for proposal to intending investors on March the 8th, 2022, coupled with plans to secure the AFC constitution of a 9-man board to manage the carrier temporarily, among others. The national carrier is to replace the defunct Nigeria Airways that ceased operations in 2003. The replacement was designed as a public-private partnership project with the federal government owning 5% stake. Now, banks' borrowing from the Central Bank of Nigeria fell for the second consecutive month in February by 47% to 666 billion naira, driven by further improvement in the level of liquidity in the interbank system. On the other hand, the banks increased deposits of their idle funds with the CBN by 80% to 489.05 billion naira in February. Earlier in January, banks' borrowing from the Apex Bank fell by 46% to 1.3 trillion naira, while their deposits rose by 29% to 279 billion naira. While the CBN lends money to banks through the SLF at interest rates of 100 basis points above the monetary policy rate, it also lends money to banks through repo arrangement, which involves the purchase of banks' securities with the agreement to sell back at a specific date and usually for a higher price. Now, analysis of data from the CBN show that banks' borrowing through repo arrangement dropped significantly by 47% month-on-month in February to 480.35 billion naira from 952.79 trillion naira in January. As calls for cleaner energy utilization reach a crescendo, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDBMB, said it is collaborating with select partners to produce liquefied petroleum gas, that's cooking gas, that would meet 10% of current national demand. The Executive Secretary of the NCDBMB, Simbi Kesia Wabote, announced this while speaking at the just concluded 2022 Nigerian International Energy Summit in Abuja. According to him, the board recently secured the approval of its governing council for a partnership to produce 123,000 metric tons per annum LPG, which is about 10% of current demand nationwide from the Utorogu gas plant in Warri, Delta State, to enhance local production of LPG and reduce importation. It says partnership in the gas sector have unlocked 6,000 metric tons of LPG storage facilities, annual production of 1.2 million LPG composite cylinders, and infrastructure and facilities for processing of 840 standard cubic feet of gas across 14 states of the Federation. The Central Bank of Nigeria has told manufacturers whose revenues are Naira denominated not to take dollar loans. Instead, the Apex Bank pledged it will continue to provide Naira funding, advising that where the revenue stream is in Naira, dollar loans should be avoided. It says, quote, "For any entrepreneur that wishes to do business in Nigeria, we will provide Naira funding, and we always advise that, particularly if your revenue stream is in Naira, such companies should avoid taking dollar loans." End of quote. Emefiele said the CBN will continually encourage people to take advantage of such loans to drive industrialization in Nigeria and get a manufacturing business back alive again. Now, volume of transactions in mutual funds, otherwise known as collective investment scheme, dropped by 12.2% in 2021 as investors' commitment in the asset class fell to 1.3 trillion naira from 1.49 trillion naira in the previous year, 2020. On a year-to-date basis, the investment in the asset class also fell by 12.8% from 1.49 trillion naira in January 2021, reflecting increased investors' apathy towards mutual funds. Breakdown of performance in the different classes of the CIS showed that bonds funds outperformed the equity-based funds and the money market funds. The bonds funds recorded the highest patronage with 12.6% year-on-year growth in asset value to 534.14 billion naira and from 474.30 billion naira a year ago. Money market funds fell 25.1% to 536.39 billion naira from 743 billion naira, while equity-based funds declined by 7.2% to 28.34 billion naira from 30.54 billion naira in the previous year. Financial experts attributed the development to low rate of returns recorded in some of the funds, as well as lack of understanding of the benefits by retail investors. Now, the International Monetary Fund says that Nigeria's revenue is still not where it needs to be, noting that the country collects the least amount of revenue at about 7 to 8% of GDP among all emerging economies. IMF country representative to Nigeria, Ari Eisen, said this the American Business Council economic update, where experts explored opportunities and imperatives for businesses in the country. According to him, for a country such as Nigeria, which records below 12% revenue to the GDP ratio, it is very difficult to make attempts on such economic indicators, and it is difficult to get improvement on social indicators with low level of revenue to GDP ratio. He recommended that strengthening tax administration, increasing tax compliance supply using digitization, and broadening the tax base are essential to raising the rates to levels that are around the regional average, which are useful strategies to reduce smuggling that is seen through the porous borders. Still to come, Brent crude surges above $135 per barrel as Russia-Ukraine war rages on. Details and more news updates after this commercial break. Stay with us.
Most people don't understand the magic of the perfect skin, the allure of a well-pampered skin. We bounce from skincare products to skincare products. from spa to spa. Looking for that ideal solution. I found the solution. And it's Blemiviv Skincare and Spa. My name is Neil, and I'm proud to be a part of the Blemiviv family.
Swift Dry Cleaners Limited, professional dry cleaners, best in dry cleaning and laundry services, and meets the needs of our consumers. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah, for clean wash and quick delivery. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. For clean wash and quick delivery. Ooh.
Swift Dry Cleaners. Clean wash, quick delivery.
Oh boy, winning you was so easy.
I just couldn't stand those your powerful shots. That's what happened.
Really? Let's go to my place for dinner.
This fufu is so nice.
It's through unripe plantain flour.
True unripe plantain flour is delicious.
Yes, true unripe plantain flour is what I serve my husband for swallows. It's easy to prepare, fortified with vitamin A, low in sugar and cholesterol, rich in fiber that helps the heart, builds and strengthens the bone, and his energy level is boosted.
Through unripe plantain flour, no additives, 100% natural, a product of Pali Agro Products Nigeria. Through unripe plantain flour, available in all leading stores nationwide.
You're watching Business Now on iBrandTV Lagos. Now to Africa's scene. African average insurance penetration dropped from 2.78% in 2019 to 2% in 2020. Speaking at the insurance retreat for Africa organized by the government of Zanzibar at Madinat El Bahir, the President African Insurance Organization, IAO, Tope Smart, said this should be of concern to insurers in the Africa. Now, he attributed the low insurance penetration on the continent to low income and awareness, failure to embrace digital technology, high level of financial exclusion, lack of infrastructural and distribution channels, as well as domestic skills and shortage of data. He said, quote, while the global average penetration rate in 2019 was 7.20%, That of Africa was 2.78%. In 2020, while the global average went up to 7.40%, that of Africa came down significantly to about 2%. This should be of great concern to us as a region. End of quote. Now, SMART charged stakeholders to address these barriers to galvanize the sector. The Senior Managing Director, Mercy Core Ventures, Scott Onda, says the new Kenyan micro-work pilot has the power to drive financial inclusion across Africa. This was even as he noted that crypto has the potential to address unemployment, generate stable incomes, reduce the costs of cross-border payments, and incentivize savings among low-income youths. In a report, Under said the new micro-work pilot project in Kenya by Cello Foundation and Mercy Core Ventures has helped hundreds of Kenyan youths access digital jobs with greater earnings than ever before. According to him, the digital micro-work, a global industry with an estimated size close to $1 billion, is a form of digital labor that breaks up complex technical projects into thousands of fractional tasks that can be completed on a mobile phone within minutes. Now to foreign scene. The price of Bitcoin has been declining over the past few days, almost reversing all gains from the past greenish week. It lost $6,500 over the past 4 days alone. As of press time, the largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization was changing hands at $37,800 below the crucial $40,000 mark, as crypto assets posted significant sell-offs over the war in Ukraine. The stakes for both sides in the ground war looks set to rise as Russia's invasion of Ukraine heads toward its 2-week mark, with potentially catastrophic consequences for civilians and increased challenges for Ukraine's remarkably successful defense. President Vladimir Putin reiterated on Sunday that war will continue until Ukraine complies with his demands and ceases its resistance, dimming hopes for a negotiated settlement. Now, the global benchmark, the Brent crude futures, has started the trading session surging over $135 per barrel as Russia's invasion of Ukraine intensifies and oil buyers shunned barrels from one of the world's largest exporters of crude and refined crude products. Since Russia began its special military operation in Ukraine, the United States and other European nations have been reluctant to sanction Russia's oil and gas exports. This is because the Western allies are concerned about the repercussions on Europe's energy supply and skyrocketing oil and gasoline prices. The United States benchmark has also rallied to a 14-year high as it surges past $130 per barrel benchmark at the start of the Asian session. Global oil prices have spiked more than 60% since the start of 2022, along with other commodities, raising concerns about world economic growth and stagflation. And China, world's #2 economy, is already targeting a slower growth of 5.5% this year. We go on a commercial break now, and when we return, that's shortly, we'll be linking up with Margaret for more news updates. I'm Michael Nath. Thanks for watching.
Most people don't understand the magic of the perfect skin, the allure of a well-pampered skin. We bounce from skincare products to skincare products, from spa to spa. Looking for that ideal solution. I found the solution. And it's Blemiville Skincare and Spa. My name is Neil, and I'm proud to be a part of the Blemivy family.
Many thanks for joining us on News Now on iBrandTV. Here are some top stories we are tracking. I am Margaret Opara. The Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday stopped the President Muhammadu Buhari, Attorney General of the Federation and Senate President from tampering with the newly amended Electoral Act 2022. Justice Ian Ekwo, in a ruling on an ex parte application filed by the People's Democratic Party, agreed that the Electoral Act had become a valid law and could not be tampered with without following due process. Justice Ekwo held that the proper place to challenge the validity of any existing law was in court of competent jurisdiction. The PDP, through its counsel James Onoja, SAN, sued the president along with the others challenging what is described as a bid to tinker with the newly amended Electoral Act. The AGF, as well as the Senate President, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Clerk of the National Assembly, Senate Leader, House of Representatives Leader, and Independent National Electoral Commission were named as defendants in the suit. Also joined as defendants in the suit marked FHC/ABJ/CS/247/2022, where Deputy Senate President, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Senate Leader and Deputy Leader, House of Representatives. The party prayed the court for an order in interim injunction restraining the President and other defendants from refusing to implement the duly signed Electoral Act. The PDP also applied for an order of the court stopping the National Assembly from giving effect to the President's request to remove Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act or take any step that would make the provision inoperative pending the resolution of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. The hearing of the matter has been fixed for March 21. A new batch of 306 Nigerians yesterday returned home from the war-ravaged Ukraine, according to the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM. The commission stated that they arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, at 0:30 a.m. Airport Air Peace Boeing 773-300 flight APK 7534 through Budapest. The arrivals increased the number of Nigerians evacuated by the federal government to 1,112 as 807. Others had earlier been evacuated in 3 batches as at Saturday. NIDCOM stated also that the returnees were excited to be home after the uncertainty of fleeing from war. They applauded the speedy response of the federal government to their plight, NIDCOM added. The many Nigerians and other nationals fled Ukraine into nearby countries since Russia launched a full-scale war on its neighbor on February 24. The Nigerian government approved the release of $8.5 million on Wednesday for the immediate evacuation of at least 5,000 Nigerians fleeing the Russian-Ukrainian conflict zone to Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Slovakia. And moving on, the federal government on Monday said it would not tolerate the recruitment of Nigerians as foreign fighters in Ukraine. According to a statement signed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Francisca Omayuli, the government is in talks with Ukrainian counterparts to forestall such an occurrence. The government's statement comes after reports emerged of Nigerian volunteers being drafted into the Ukrainian army at the Ukrainian embassy in Abuja. Quote, the Ministry of Finance Affairs contacted the embassy to verify the speculation, end of quotes, the statement said. The Ukrainian embassy refuted the allegation but confirmed that a number of Nigerians had approached the embassy indicating their willingness to fight on the side of Ukraine in its ongoing conflict with Russia. Now, furthermore, the embassy clarified that the Ukrainian government is not admitting foreign volunteer fighters, and as such is associated itself from the claim as it requesting $1,000 from each Nigerian volunteer for air tickets and visa. The federal government also said it would continue to engage with the Embassy of Ukraine in Nigeria and other relevant authorities to prevent this possibility. Now, suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari on Monday pleaded not guilty to a drug trafficking charge filed against him by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Kyari told Justice Emeka Wite of the Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday, following his arraignment alongside 6 others on allegations bordering on drug trafficking. While Kyari pleaded guilty to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 leveled against him, the other 4 police officers who are defendants of the trial also pleaded not guilty to counts 1, 2, 3, and 4 filed against them. But Chibunna Patrick Umeibe and Emeka Afonsons Ezewanne, who are 6th and 7th defendants, pleaded guilty to counts 5, 6, and 7 preferred against them. Although their names were also mentioned in count 3 and 4, where allegations bordering on conspiracy were leveled against Kyari and others, they were asked not to take a plea on these 2 counts. The 4 members of the Inspector General of Police Intelligence Response Team in the charge marked FHC/ABJ/ABJ/57/2022 include ACP Sunday J. Ubia, ASP Bawa James, Inspector Simon Agirigba, and Inspector John Nuhu. Umeibe and Ezewanne are also, or rather are the 2 alleged drug traffickers that were arrested at the Akanu Ibiam International Airport in Enugu State. Shortly after taking their plea, the NDLEA lawyer Sunday Joseph, Director of Prosecution and Legal Services, prayed the court for a trial date for the 1st to the 5th defendants. Sunday also urged the court to grant a leave to review the charges against Umeibe and Ezewanne, who pleaded guilty to the charges against them. Now, after national-wide strike embarked upon by the academic members of Staff Union of Universities, ASU, enters the 5th week, the national leadership of the union plans to meet this week in Abuja to consider fresh offers made by the federal government to meet their demands. President of ASU, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who spoke at the weekend over the lingering dispute, said although there was nothing significantly new in what government had put forward, but that in the spirit of dialogue and consultations, the union decided to convene a meeting of its national executive to look at the new timeline and to resolve on the next course of action. When reminded that the federal government had made a new commitment to review the salaries and conditions of services of the lecturers within 6 weeks, the ASU president said such pledges had been made severally in the past without fulfillment. Meanwhile, the federal government has inaugurated a new team to commence renegotiation of 2009 agreement between ASU and the government, headed by Professor Emeritus Nimi Briggs, the Pro-Chancellor Alex Ekweme Federal University, Ndufe Alike Iko. Other members of the team are Lawrence Patrick Ngbali, Pro-Chancellor Federal University Bukari, Professor Fumi Togunu Pikaset, Pro-Chancellor Federal University Benin Kebbi, Senator Chris Adigige, Pro-Chancellor Federal University Lokoja, among others. Away from that, the ruling All Progressive Congress APC has denied media reports that Governor Mala Mai Buni had been removed as the chairman of the party's caretaker committee. A report that earlier surfaced that President Muhammadu Buhari has sacked Buni as the party's caretaker committee chairman and has appointed Governor Sani Bello of Niger State as the new chairman. But in a statement on Monday by the National Secretary of the Caretaker Committee, Senator James Akpano-Odede, the party described the report as fake and baseless. The party scribe asked APC members to remain calm and support the Caretaker Committee to conduct a RACO-free and credible national convention. The governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, says agriculture remains a strong pillar and saving grace for the Nigerian economy. Emefiele said this at the weekend while addressing journalists during an inspection tour of palm plantation at Udigi village in Ovia North-East local government area of Edo State. Shortly after the assessment of the farm, Emefiele attested to the giant strides already being recorded in the production of maize and cassava and expressed optimism that in the next 12 months, palm produce harvests would have commenced. He acknowledged the significant role played by Oyo State government under the leadership of Governor Godwin Obaseki, who he said had matched words with action by making sure that arable land was made available to those genuinely interested in agriculture. On the socio-economic impact of the CBN interventions, Emefiele mentioned the Anchor Borers program, among others intervention schemes, which revolutionized agricultural practice. He also disclosed that farmers were now being granted credit facilities in the form of inputs like seedlings, fertilizers, and herbicides. Emefiele also commended the efforts of the promoting company Agri-Allied Resources and Processing Limited and its parent company Tolaram Limited for heeding to the clarion by the CBN to source their critical raw materials locally. He pointed out that the company had painstakingly embraced backward integration principle by acquiring farmland measuring about 18,000 hectares for the cultivation of oil palm, cassava, and maize, the critical raw materials used by the group. And now the World Health Organization, WHO, yesterday published an updated position paper on the RTS-S/AS01 RTS malaria vaccine with the October 2021 recommendations. It canvassed the wider use of the vaccine among children living in areas of moderate to high Plasmodium falciparum malaria transmission, as the paper complemented the recent addition of the recommendation to the World Health Organization guidelines for malaria. Director of the Department of Immunization, Vaccines and Biologicals, Dr. Kate O'Brien, said the first malaria vaccine is a major step forwards for malaria control, child and health equity. If implemented broadly, the vaccine could save thousands of lives each year. The recommendation was recently added to the WHO's consolidated malaria guidelines of the Magic Cap platform and aggregated its most up-to-date recommendation for malaria in a user-friendly online platform, as well as encourage countries to adapt the recommendation to local settings. In addition, the paper identified research priorities for the vaccine and considerations for immunization and health system, described the development of a framework to guide the allocation of initial limited doses of malaria vaccine, while supplies of RTS are expected to be limited in the short to medium term. And now to African news. The Burkina Faso's interim president, Paul-Henri Damiba, had approved a new government that includes the same defense minister as served under the former president, Roch Kabore, before his ouster in a military coup, an official decree showed on Saturday. Damiba was inaugurated on Wednesday as transitional president for 3 years after leading a group of officers to oust Kabore in January. They said they were motivated by frustration without mounting violence by Islamist militants. The new government of 25 ministers include Defense Ministry General Patlemi Simpor, who has retained the position he held under Kabore, according to the decree. Burkina Faso's military coup was the fourth in West Africa in 18 months, following 2 in Mali and 1 in Guinea, after a period of democracy had raised hopes the region could shed its reputation as the continent's cool belt. The new authorities will have to try to contain the violent Islamist insurgency that has overrun swaths of Burkina territory and drained scarce national resources. The 8 negotiators sent by President Felix Tshisekedi to Ituri to negotiate a ceasefire with armed groups are still being held by Codeco Militaire. They were taken prisoner on 16 February. Among them are two former warlords, Thomas Lubanga and Jermaine Katanga, who were previously convicted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes and crimes against humanity in the early 2000s. Since then, the authorities have been trying to obtain their release, but the military men have set conditions. In addition to an amnesty for its fighters and their integration into the regular army, the Codeco Militaire has asked for the lifting of the state of siege that had been placed for 10 months in Ituri, but also for a halt to military operations in the same province. According to the Minister of National Defense, and negotiations are nevertheless progressing positively. He is even optimistic that and says that the talks could reach a successful conclusion. The negotiations have been conducted for a fortnight with distance. The authorities have appointed another former warlord as mediator. Since their capture, the hostages have been taken to Gutsi, one of the military strongholds. This weekend, images of the captive were shared on social network as proof of life. Thomas Lubanga and 2 other hostages are reportedly ill and without treatment, according to a government source. And according to the Kodeko military, the emissaries were held because the army and orders of the military governor had carried out bombing raids in the area close to where the talks were being held. This accusation was rejected by the political military leader. And on the foreign scene, Russia boycotted hearings at the UN's highest court on Monday, during which Ukraine is seeking an emergency order to halt hostilities, arguing that Moscow had falsely applied genocide law in justifying its invasion. Hearings began at the International Court of Justice without legal representation for Russia. The court said it regretted Russia's non-attendance. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said Russia's special military action is needed to protect people who have been subjected to bullying and genocide. Ukraine said on Monday Russia's claim was baseless and the alleged genocide in eastern Ukraine was non-existent. The case centers on the interpretation of a 1948 treaty on the prevention of genocide signed by both countries. The treaty names the ICJ as a forum for resolving disputes between signatories. Ukraine said Monday that Moscow was violating and abusing the Genocide Convention by using it as a justification for war. And the ICJ, in its highest court for resolving disputes between states, and while cases will usually take years, it has a fast-track procedure to look at requests for provisional measures such as those the Ukraine had requested. The court can order provisional measures to prevent the situation from worsening before it looks more at fundamental questions such as whether it has jurisdiction or merits of a case. The countries usually, but do not always, follow the court orders which are binding. And still on the foreign scene, France warned Russia not to resort to blackmail over efforts to revive a nuclear deal between Iran and world powers after Moscow demanded the U.S. guarantee that the sanctions it faces over Ukraine would not hurt its trade with Tehran. Russia raised the potential stumbling block on Saturday just as months of indirect talks between Tehran and Washington in Vienna over reviving the pact struck in 2015 appeared headed for agreement. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Saturday that Russia wanted a written U.S. guarantee that Moscow's trade, investment, and military technical cooperation with Iran would not be hindered by a Western sanction imposed since Russia invaded its neighbor. A French presidency official told reporters late on Sunday that diplomats tended to treat each issue on its merit and not conflating them. All parties involved in the talks say progress has been made towards the restoration of the pact to curb Tehran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief, which the United States abandoned in 2018. But both Tehran and Washington have said there are still some significant differences to overcome. Now, Western officials said there is a common interest in avoiding a non-proliferation crisis, and they are trying to ascertain if what Russia is demanding regards only its commitments to the Iran deal. That would be manageable, but anything beyond that would be problematic, they said. And the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken sought on Sunday to dispel talk of obstacles, saying the sanctions imposed on Russia over Ukraine has nothing to do with the nuclear deal. Now, Iranian officers say Russia's demand at talks on Iran's nuclear deal on Vienna are not constructive. Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency reported on Monday. Russia had demanded a U.S. guarantee that the sanctions it faces over the Ukraine conflict would not hurt its trade with Iran. The demand could be a stumbling block in the talks. By postponing the revival of the agreement between Iran and the Western powers and delaying Iran's return to oil markets, Russia was seeking to raise crude prices and increase its own energy revenue, the news agency said without citing a source for the assessment. Coming up now is entertainment news.
This is Entertainment Business. I am Michelle Abanum. Nigerian singer Davido shut down the O2 Arena in London with his highly anticipated event. The show, which was held on Saturday, March 5th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m., saw the likes of Nigerian celebrities and fans traveling all the way to London for the show. Davido opened the show wearing a customized Dolce & Gabbana jacket and trousers embellished with crystals. The outfit, according to the nation's investigations, cost the singer a staggering 10.4 million naira. The award-winning artist has reportedly been fined 188 million naira in the UK after his London show at O2 Arena. Marvin Abbey, a social media influencer based in London, in a tweet said Davido was supposed to finish his concert at the O2 Arena at 11 p.m. but overshot the time. He also stated that the Rolling Stones and Justin Bieber have also been fined in the past and that the fine is issued by Greenwich Council. Moving on, The Batman swooped into theaters this weekend, tallying the second highest domestic opening of the pandemic era. The Warner Brothers film generated $128.5 million in ticket sales over the weekend, coming in above the studio's expectations of $110 million. The Batman is only the second film released after March 2020 to see the opening weekend ticket sales in excess of $100 million. Spider-Man No Way Home, a co-production between Disney and Sony, was the first, generating $260 million during its domestic debut in December. No Way Home also holds the title of the highest opener of the pandemic era and second best in cinematic history, according to data from Comscore. Franchise-based films, particularly those about comic book characters, have been some of the few to break through and generate significant gains at the box office during the pandemic. Movie theaters have seen families with young children and adults aged over 50 to be more reluctant to turn up at cinemas, even for big films. And that's it on Entertainment Business. I am Michelle Abanum.
And now Samson Oloyede stands by for sports news.
The shooting shirt won by Kobe Bryant before his 81-point game against the Toronto Raptors in 2006 are sold for $277,200 at an auction on Sunday. The feat is the second most points ever scored in an NBA game, trailing only Will Chamberlain's 100-point game for the Philadelphia Warriors in 1962. The shoes from that historic game were sent to the Basketball Hall of Fame, while the uniform is owned by Brand's family. Hence, the shooting shirt might be the only Brand-owned item from the game that ever becomes available. The shooting shirt was reportedly worn by Brand 6 other times throughout his career. David Kohler, the president of SCP Auctions, won the bid. The 81-point game from Kobe Bryant is widely considered one of the greatest scoring performances of all time, and in some cases the argument can be made that it is one of the greatest sports performances of all time. And still talking sports business at this hour, the Supercross World Championship, a new motorcycle racing event, just received major financial backing as SX Global, the Australian-based company that will oversee the event's promotion and development, announced it as a new investor in Mubadala Capital. Over the next 5 years, teams and riders will receive a total of $50 million from Mubadala Capital. The Supercross World Championship will also offer $250,000 per event in prize money, which is the most in Supercross history. The newly minted funds will help with both management and promotion efforts, which brings excitement to the sport off-road motorcycle racing to fans across the globe in a new competitive format, the announcement said. Mubadala Capital is the asset management subsidiary of Mubadala Investment Company, a United Arab Emirates sovereign wealth fund that boasts $243 billion in assets under management. And finally, on sports business at this hour, Fanatics has announced a $1.5 billion funding round valuing the company at $27 billion. BlackRock, Fidelity and MSD Capital were included in the round. The company raised $325 million in August at an $18 billion valuation. Initially known for its sports merchandise and memorabilia, Fanatics has gained footholds in other sports sectors with the help of its databases, which include more than 80 million reachable sport fans. Fanatics added Topps trading card company to its portfolio in January for $500 million, adding to its own company card, which at the time was already valued at $10 billion. It has exclusive trading card deals with MLB, MLBPA, the NBA, the NBPA, and NFLPA. The company has also been eyeing sports betting and even applied for a license in New York, though it was declined. And that's it on sports business. I'm Samson Oluyede.
And that's a wrap on News Update segment. Our news now at this hour. For more news stories, please visit our website, follow all our social media platforms, and also tune in to StarTime channel 143 for more news updates. I am Margaret Opa. Thanks for watching.